right. This starts my season 2. Welcome to my podcast show, Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond. This starts the episode 30 for season 2, starting in 2018 to 2019. I'm very excited. I took my summer break after starting my first year in my podcasting, and I really enjoyed it. And I wanted to take a break to kind of, relax from doing a weekly podcast episode. I enjoy doing the podcast. It helps me to expand, as I mentioned before, my joy of writing. That's my passion and a part of my purpose. And to talk about the production that formulated into a book. So thank you so much for joining me as I return back for my season 2 in September, which this season runs from September to May of next year. So the podcast allows me to write like short stories and expand and to share the characters of the story of Mitsrayim. That's my book that I published over 20 years ago. So I'm very excited to be in this position and be able to release these weekly episodes. Now, this is considered a premium content podcast. So explain that real quick as we about to start the show. For those that are new, it's a premium content podcast because I'm releasing some of the stories. For the first month of September, I will be releasing the full short story that I've written. And like I said, most of the short stories, as I mentioned in my last season, will be of MOLIAE. MOLIAE is the theatrical production for my book, Mitsrayim, a memoir. So most of the year I will release clip snippets. So you don't get the full story, but you get enough to be able to figure out who are the characters and why they're doing this or they did that. Sometimes you might not know why they're doing it. But you do get enough that if you want to become a patron, you can. And I have a Patreon page, and that link is in the bottom of the description. So that helps with going forward and expanding the story and doing other projects in support of that when you become a patron. And you can get that link and find out more about it, where you can get the full short story, what actually ended that actual overall episode. In the meantime, when I do the clip snippets and I release that most of the year of the season, you get enough just to identify this either a new character or a character that's already been released and talked about, but to learn more about the personality and about the plot as it continued to evolve, right? So in all retrospect, I had a great summer. I'm about to announce some of the things that I was working on during the summer. Not yet. If I do release it, so when you get this, it'll be as if at the moment I haven't announced it yet, but it could be announced this week when this first podcast for starting season 2. So it will probably be labeled a bonus, and that's when I'm just announcing it. By that time, I probably decided to do it the week that I'm returning back or later after my season 2 starts. But I am about to make an announcement of some projects I was working on this past summer. So let's just get into this new season, where I'm going to just talk about last year. So last year, my season that ended in May, it was the finale. It was a finale where entitled "Bountiful is Thee Amongst a Mitsrayim King." So we discovered that King Mahlon is very well. He's back on the scene, and he went to go see Ecko. Ecko is from the Orions, and he seemed to be a designated leader of this regime that is against Mitsrayim, basically take the power. But it's something else. They're after something that they're calling their star. And so that's where we left off in May. Queen Hagar was with King Mahlon. And so you wanted to get that feel and hear about that particular finale. Then the finale, of course, I'm talking about 14 minutes. It was a lot. It was my last podcast show, my very first one. So, but I gave you a lot of information. Then I went into the story. So out of 14 minutes, I think about 12, maybe maybe another 14 minutes is that story. So I gave you a lot, but some of it was not revealed. Some of it faded out and it came back, because guess what? You got to become a patron, right? Support the podcast. So go ahead and check that out. That will most likely be, like I said, the last episode. So you can check that out, where it's entitled Bountify is Thee Amongst the Mitsrayim Kings. So it was the last week in May, if you wanted to go ahead and check that out, episode 29. Okay, so we went through that. Let's go ahead and go forward, where we're looking to the next page in this saga. Because remember, I started this podcast with a very strong calling to focus on Queen Hagar and King Mahlon. Now, some of these characters that I'm talking about, and you're new to this podcast, I highly recommend that you either can go to YouTube, our YouTube channel, which is MOLIAE YouTube channel, or you can go, of course, to Spreakers and find the character profiles that I did to give some background on it. Going forward, I will continue that as well. So this season, of course, I will be creating these new characters to put the pieces together. But this whole saga, this timeline, is basically before the time of Princess Amina. Who was Princess Amina? Well, she's the main character of my book, Mitsrayim. That's what started the story of Mitsrayim. The memories were through her eyes. And so these characters at the time of the book played a supporting role amongst the two kings and then her two friends or what have you. And now we're fast forwarding in 2018 going to 2019. I have evolved the story from Moments of Love in Ancient Egypt. That was a stage production for Mitsrayim. And then we just, of course, the acronym of that production made it into a short film and some webisodes. And then now we're doing a podcast, all from this book. Okay, the power of determination has evolved when you're in purpose, right? So Princess Amina, this is the time before Princess Amina. So she has not been born yet. Now, in the first season, I think it's episode 2 or 3, we learned that Queen Hagar was pregnant. Okay, so at the time, we don't know if that's Princess Amina, because you're getting it right here. If you haven't read my book, Queen Mahlon and Queen Hagar had a son. So really know which is which at that point. But later on, it's an episode that I do reveal that it's a female. Okay, you got to find that out, and that's when Queen Mother Mana visits Queen Hagar, and this is in season 1. Okay, so let's now look forward from that point in the last episode 29, Bountiful is Thee Amongst the Mitsrayim. It was uploaded on May 28th, so you can go back and check out that podcast. It's a very, you know what, if you haven't already, the podcast that's on Spreaker is the audio, but I suggest you go to our YouTube channel, MOLIAE YouTube channel, and you can see that finale in a video sense, so not just an audio. And I think it's very good. It's got the images and the special effects. You got to check it out and share it if you like it. So, and that's also bring me to another thing that I do in my podcast. Now, last year I did it like more so in the beginning half of the year, but it takes a while when you do that editing, right? Film editing. Which by that I do that as a director. But this season I'm going to do that still, like do some video aspect to it, video storytelling with my audio, with my podcast, but not all the time. I might do it maybe once every 60 days because it is quite time consuming. So to make sure that I stick to my schedule and release episodes every week, it would be periodically that I would do those video clips, which I need to kind of highlight because I think some people just only go to my Spreaker podcast page and get the audio there, get the podcast there, but don't realize that I actually have a video to go with it, which is awesome. Because if you play it, I did it when I played it and put it on my smartphone when I first started. I was like, it was amazing. So I highly suggest that to get the real, I call it the visual experience. So check those out. As I think I did quite a few, not a lot, but quite a few. It's an actual video, not just the standard static picture of what Spreaker does. Like you actually seeing like a mini movie there. Okay, so guess what we're going to do? We're going to move forward from the last episode and find out what's up next. So in this title here, we are looking at episode 30, where it is entitled, When One Fall, There Is Another to Behold. So basically, again, some major players from the episode that I mentioned, Bountiful is Thee amongst the Mitsrayim king, was discovered to Queen Hagar and King Mahlon of the traders. Now, if I'm going to do a director's clip, I haven't did one since the last one we're doing my summer break, but I'm going to continue to do that because it helps to connect everything together and for people to put the pieces together. So of what's, what the whole purpose of the story in that episode, who are the people that the listener really need to take hold of to understand more, because it's a clue to move forward. Now, the production of MOLIAE, which is my gem of gems, that's my heart, because that's what started my first pursuit to actually start writing before I knew I was a writer. So it is in the middle of still preparing for the prestige return of MOLIAE stage play. And once that is announced, it would have a lot of characters. In the book itself, Mitsrayim, it had about 50 characters. So this podcast allowed me to expand and go into different elements of the character that I'm revealing, as well as prepare those that are new to MOLIAE, and as well to prepare them for when we return back to stage for the third time, which is going to be a bigger production. So I think that storytelling is a way to connect to people, to engage their emotions and the way they think and how they choose, and to learn something from it. So in this aspect, before we actually return back to stage, I will have a nice, very large content of these characters and their stories and how they connect to one another. So when we get to stage and these character names are rolled out there, you're able to connect it and engage. And I think it's enhanced the overall experience, because you might not agree with that character, what that character did, but and you just feel more connected. You're involved. You're sitting at the table when all of this is going on. And so at any rate, I encourage you to definitely listen to the other episodes, watch the videos that I do release with my podcast on MOLIAE YouTube channel, and sharing the experience. So moving forward from that, let's go ahead and start this, right? Welcome back. All right, let's begin. For this week of my season 2 podcast show, Nichel Anderson, Short Stories and Beyond. For this week, episode 30. When one fall, there is another to behold. Opening scene. Days that seemed like many came afold as the high-rank Orions to those of Unkin. The Council of Secrecy sat in astonishment to what Lanko explained would happen to the many of Ecko and his army. Secret location on Tiamat. Haney, the highest of the Unkin order, spoke first with age of wisdom in the last several dawns, where all the two Napu of Ecko reign. Lanko paused for a moment. I am not sure. Ecko never spoke of their location. Hanu nodded before moving his hand on what seemed to be a cloth with markings that only he could read. Hanu looked back up to Lanko. And the last call to Ecko, it was to move northern with the tribal leaders. There is one of the members of the Council of Akun interrupted Hanu in caution to relay such secrecy to the third rank officer called Lanko before them. Hanu raised his hand and signaled that it must be shared due to the occurrences of Ecko. The member of the council nodded to adhere to Hani's decision as senior rank leader. Hani proceeded by motioning the guards in the enclave to leave. This left only the 12 council members before Lanko. Not immediately looking back at Hani, the quietness left Lanko very uneasy, even with this many years in combat, for he felt another level of authority was upon him. He felt to nod before Hani. Moments that seemed like days passed as Hani finally spoke as the last guard left the enclave. Hani took what looked like something to write with and marked it on another cloth before rolling it up. He then motioned Lanko to proceed closer to the council. Lanko followed as was told. Hani, still sitting, raised the rolled up cloth to give to Lanko as the other members looked in alignment to the decision. Hani spoke in their language of secret code that only Lanko rank and up could understand to assure secrecy, if any was within the reach. Hanaka no afatu so banatama si ikon nafasa natu natawa ese afototo elala onutu alastan midza manu. Translation: Return back to Tiamat, for they do not know you still exist after the fall of rank. Find Ecko. Bring Natu here. We know he still stands. Lanko nodded in agreement to the leader of Akin. Hani pointed the rolled up cloth and spoke. Give the message that you hold to the tribal leader in the north region by far of the mountains of old. Only he can read the meaning for another day in this war. Lanko nodded and hid the cloth message before turning around to leave. As Lanko knocked on the stone entrance door to be let out by the outside guards, Hani looked on in deep thought as the members of Akin immediately debated with him about the next move forward after learning that King Mahlon is alive and well, standing tall within the resilience in Mitsrayim. End scene.